Well, so someone who has fans a little more hesitant is Jabari Smith,
Yeah.
and we've mentioned him in passing, but let's dive into it. Um, Obviously, I'm asking this facetiously, but have the Rockets ruined their future because of Jabari Smith?
No, not at
Thank you,
all.
thank you.
Um, uh, you know, this is the problem with summer league is if you don't go out there and dominate right away, everyone starts waving like turning on the sirens and being like, "Uh-oh, it's a bust." And it's like, "No, this is their first game after, months and months of workouts by themselves in front of, a bunch of executives in an empty gym and then interviews and media and, all that crap. And now they're, all right, get ready. Here we go. We're playing live basketball again. Jabari was going to struggle. Like
Yeah,
Jabari was either going to get red hot from outside and everyone was going to be like, oh my gosh, he's the greatest. Or if his shot didn't fall, it could have gotten ugly. And we've said this a lot of the year. We were like, if his shot's not falling, what's he going to be able to do? But this is what I wanted to get at for Rockets fans. And Metcalf, you can tell me I'm crazy. I think it's more important if you start having the later summer league games where you start finding some confidence. Like I love that he struggled his first game. The second game that we watched there, he was like, it was honestly kind of fascinating to watch because he just kept shooting. He was having like the worst shooting night of his career, and he was like, I'm shooting out of this slump. And it was like,
yeah,
me and Corey were like, and the whole No Ceilings crew were like, I almost respect it because he's just like, I don't care. I'm shooting myself out of this. He made one once. I think he like screamed an obscenity at the top of his lungs. He was just so mad.
yeah.
But like, he was also showing some impressive defensive possessions there. So you're seeing a little bit of development because he's got punched in the mouth. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson. And then the third game, he has his best game. His last game, he had like 19-9. I thought he looked fantastic. He was more efficient. He looked calmed down. You want to see those. You want to see the develop. Like each game, he's getting better. Each game, he's getting a little bit more confidence. Because I said it before before we even went to Vegas. I think if a guy comes out and has 35 right away, that could be dangerous. Because they're
Yeah.
like, look how good I am. I'm the guy already. But Jabari looks like a hard worker. That game he struggled. If you were there, you saw he was doing everything. He was like, come on, get out of it. Like he was frustrated, and it was just a frustrated of giving a shit. And I thought he still tried to make plays defensively. He still had some nice possessions. And last game, he looked really, really good. So just be patient with these guys. Can we not overreact when I understand everyone gets pumped when someone looks good, but it's like just when a guy looks bad doesn't mean we're going to be like, okay, he's the worst player ever. Like, just relax. Houston, he's going to be fine. What
Yeah,
about you,
and
Metcalf? What do you think?
and the big thing with him is the shots just hasn't fallen yet,
Right.
and but he keeps shooting and keeps playing like it has been, and I think, like you said, that's really encouraging because it shows that he still has confidence in it and that he's not being timid and passing up open shots or not looking for his own shot. If that was the case, where on these pick and pops he would just immediately look to swing it and not even look at the hoop, then it'd be like, oh, like we're 3 games in and you're already losing faith in what was the main selling point, or one of the main selling points with you. Um, so I think the shot's going to get there. It's going to be fine. He's even shown some of these, mid post kind of back a guy down, spin, get to the rim. That's been really nice. The ball handling has been it's not been great.
Yeah,
Um,
not great, Bob.
there were a handful, let's say, of transition possessions that immediately died because he couldn't handle, really. And I was hoping to see a little bit more development in that area for him than there has been. But with the Rockets, with Jalen Green, who's probably going to have the ball most of the time, and
Right.
Kevin Porter Jr., and, even Shengun in the post, I don't think it's going to be as much of an issue as it is with the summer league team, because he's facing a similar guard issue that he faced at Auburn.
Right.
Um, what's gotten me really excited about this Rockets team is what we said in the draft recap show. that defensive pairing of him and Tari Eason is going to be so much fucking fun, like 2 or 3 years from now, where they're going to be dominant together. And we're already seeing stretches of it where there's this one in the Magic game where RJ Hampton brought the ball up. He got Jabari switched onto him. Why, I don't know. He tried to use his athleticism to drive past Jabari. Jabari stayed with him step for step, never crossed his feet, cut off the drive. RJ had to kick it back out to Paulo, who then drove to the free throw line. Tari cut him off, and Paulo spun for a fadeaway mid ranger at about 18 feet, and Tari was right in his face, and they missed a shot. It's like, oh my God, that is fun. When you have two guys who can move like that on the perimeter and force turnovers and always be in the guy's face, regardless of whatever position they are, that is so important and deadly for a defense moving forward. So even though they're rookies, and I know young players typically aren't good defenders, I think they're immediately going to make that Rockets team better. Now, obviously not a top 10 defense right away, but they're not going to be the worst defense in the league who can't stop anyone from getting to the rim.
Yeah, I thought Tari's looked incredible. Tari's looked very, very good. Like, he looks like one of those guys where it's absolutely perfect. Like, summer league's just perfect for him, but he's just playing his butt off. He's been flying all over the place. It's one of those things where we talk about when you're evaluating guys, like if they disappear, it's a bad sign. Tari's been visible every second he's on the court because he's just been that energetic. He's really been active. He's been, I'm one of those guys. I had him probably towards like 18 or something. I just was a little skeptical. And right now I'm like, woof, okay, I might have missed there. And, he just looks like a guy that might return top, 14 value pretty early on. Like, he looked great. He looks like you know what it is? It's the classic. He landed in the perfect spot. And Jabari, like Jabari's shown some stuff defensively that everyone's obsessing with his struggling from outside shooting the ball. Jabari's shown some stuff defensively that I'm like, my goodness, it's already happening. He's going
to be an all NBA defender.
Yes, he is. And if you go watch that Spurs game that he just had his best game, he has some possessions of switching onto a couple guys and sliding his feet. This is what you talked about in the beginning of the year, Metcalf, like when he was at Auburn. Like, the versatility that he has at his disposal and potentially could have is like, stop fascinating with the 3-point shot, folks. Like, this is a potential all NBA defender. Like, it is freakish how good the fundamentals are at times. And that's where you're watching the game. It's like, I think those strides forward are more important in summer league than like a guy shooting 55%. From the field. It's like, you need to see the growth in various areas. The shot's going to come for Jabari. Like, the last thing I'll say about Jabari is anyone that's ever watched The Replacements, the speech that Shane Falco gives about quicksand, the whole second game when Jabari, I think, went like 3 for 19 or something, I was literally like, that speech is just on replay right now inside of his head. Because it was just, he just couldn't do anything right. And it was just, you could see how frustrated he was. No shot would fall. He'd have a wide open jumper, clank. So I think he's going to be fine. And the fact that he had that nightmare game and the next game has his best game, that's exactly what you want to see. But Tari, damn, he looks really, really good. I mean, they got one there.
Yeah, and that we mentioned the pickup style that summer league frequently brings out in games, and Tari thrives in that setting. It's that high pressure, chaotic, balls flying everywhere. You're running in transition, you're cutting, you're driving, you're getting mismatches. He's looked incredible, and that's the exact setting that he thrived in at LSU, and I think that that's going to pretty much translate immediately for him. I still am curious. I'm not concerned, but I'm just curious to see what he looks like when the game slows down. Defensively, he's this high pressure defender, but I've had a little more faith in how he's moving his feet and staying with guys and not gambling as much. So I think that looks good. Offensively, I'm really intrigued to see how does that translate for him when he's not just running in transition all the time, or does that corner three, continue to improve. So I'm really excited about where he's currently at and how quickly that could accelerate for him.
Yeah, he's I was just thinking about this when you were talking. Like, he's so fascinating because he's. I wonder if he's almost going to be like a new wave of like a microwave scorer for a big man, like as a forward. Where we always used to think of these guys like Lou Williams and guys that can come off the bench and really just their energy, their impact could really carry a team. And I wonder if that's Tari maybe as like a forward off the bench where he just come in and just you're letting him run wild. And some games he's just going to be in a rhythm and you're like, hey, we can't take him off the court. We got to play him down the stretch. But can he also groom to be a starter long term? Because I think he's got that potential. And now you have a luxury of having two young forwards with serious defensive ability, like you just talked about earlier, Metcalf, that those two growing together, it's going to be really, really damn fun. If they click, that could be just a force. And then, the prodigal son, Alperin Şengün's there still. So it's going to be fascinating. I loved watching Houston's team. For everyone on social media that apparently was kind of dogging on Josh Christopher, like, calm down. I thought Josh Christopher looked awesome at Summer League. I was like, my goodness, they got another asset. He looked great to me. So very interesting. Social media.
Yeah, my only gripe with Christopher is that there has been a lot of Josh Christopher.
Yes, a lot.
A little bit of a black hole when he gets the ball. But every team kind of needs one of those guys. And if the shot continues to develop and that kind of scoring versatility continues to develop, then he's going to warrant a lot of those shot attempts. So he's been good. I would like to see him make the extra pass once, maybe. But the defense has been solid. The physical scoring game I've really liked. So I think he's on a really promising just trajectory in his learning curve. Two other guys on the Rockets I wanted to mention I thought Daishen Nix has looked really good as a passer. And if that can continue to grow and he can continue to make important, contributions with either just his slashing or even some of his defense, I thought has looked pretty solid. He could be a really important connector and facilitator in that starting lineup towards the end of the season, because he's one of these guys who can get the ball pretty much anywhere on the court. And then just deep sleeper, Eric Coleman. I really like this guy. I have no idea where he came from. I think he was with the Spurs G League team all year, but he's had some awesome blocks, has knocked down the three, has had some huge dunks. I really, really like him. Obviously he's not going to be a superstar or anything, but I'm really rooting for him to make a roster.
Holman looked good. I was very impressed with Nix. He was generating some buzz. I wrote about him in my summer league preview because he was just generating some buzz in the G League to end the season. And Houston's been reportedly really high on him. I think they gave him a lengthy contract. Even, I'm sorry, off the top of my head, Rockets fans, I know.
Yeah, I think he has a multi-year deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal when they did it, and really, I was impressed. I was like, because I was lower on him as a draft prospect because I was like, he's just far away. Yeah, like he looked like a guy that was just lost when he was entering the draft, and then now it was like, the strides you've taken in 1 year, like that is remarkable. And he really did have some plays where I was like, man, that was a nice play. Like, it was just one of those guys that I'm like you, Metcalf. I thought that's the underrated piece on your roster that could be very valuable, as like you're saying, as a connector. I liked Nix a lot. I thought he was one of those guys that probably won't get enough attention just because of everyone else that's creating all these buzz and putting up these big numbers. But I really liked the way he played. And I thought in 1 year, he looked a complete different player. Like that's the dream. If you're an organization, seeing that much maturity and growth in 1 year, like, woof. So I'll be fun. It'll be interesting to keep watching, what goes on with him moving forward. Maybe there is a spot in the rotation because Nix, Christopher, Washington, they kept experimenting with all those guys as kind of like point guard roles. And I thought Christopher looked great, but was a little just chaotic. I thought Ty was, could disappear for a little bit, although he had some flashes. And then I thought Nix just looked composed of the three. He looked under control and really was playing at his speed, which is like he was making everyone come down to him. He was comfortable. So be interesting to see what happens.